I want to thank you for joining my family today. Let me introduce you to the Hayden family. My name is Mark Hayden, and this is my wife Angie Hayden, and my son Stephen Hayden, and my little son Michael Hayden. And this video today is about a family with an autistic child. Our son Michael was diagnosed with autism at Auburn University.
What?
Yeah, you were. And at the time, we didn't have anywhere to turn to for advice, as families have. There was nobody that we knew of that had a family with autism. There was no place that we could turn to for advice on the internet from families that had died of autism.
I didn't do that.
Oh, Michael, don't you worry. And one of the first things that we began to notice that was wrong was we had a hard time functioning as a family. We'd be watching a TV show, and Michael would get control of the TV, and he wouldn't want to let anybody else watch any other shows. Now, my wife and I knew something was wrong. And yet when we went to the pediatrician, he told us, guess what? There's nothing grossly wrong with your child. Of course, we lived around Michael. One of the things that we noticed was Michael wasn't developing language very well. One of the hallmarks of autism is delayed verbal development. That means children that are not saying words by at least 20 words by 2 years of age. It is a big, big warning sign. One of the other hallmarks of autism is delayed social development. And what we noticed was that Michael was not part of the group. One day I came in and I saw my family watching TV, and Michael was watching TV, and the rest of the family didn't want to watch the same show. So Michael watched his show, and the family began to play by themselves. Before long, the whole family would play by themselves, and Michael would be playing off by himself. It's like Michael wasn't even included in the family activities. Now, one of the things that we noticed too was Michael would run off and play by himself. This was at first, we told ourselves there's nothing wrong with that. Because, hey, it's great to have a boy who likes to play by himself. But he wasn't playing by himself. He wasn't playing with the rest of us. He was disconnected emotionally. And one of the things we noticed is that he did not want to, he really didn't want to participate in the family activities. He wouldn't turn his head to us when we called his name. And after a while, I would ask him to do things, but he would never do them. It's like he couldn't follow simple commands or follow any type of basic instructions. Now, one of the things I did wrong as a parent was I would get mad at my son. And I think a lot of fathers think that they're supposed to be strong disciplinarians. And my son Stephen over there on the end, he can tell you that I was a great disciplinarian with him. I used to give him a lot of discipline. He didn't really like that very much. And I thought I could discipline my son Michael. But one day after fussing at him, my son Michael, I realized that Michael didn't understand the words I said to him. And it made me almost start to want to cry. Because without understanding words, it's very difficult to be a part of society. And it's a devastating thing to imagine that your child is having a delayed delayed verbal development. But the more I studied, the more I learned that language development is so much a part of social development that it's...
Until I have a hurt foot.
Oh, you have a nice foot, Michael.
No, this is my hurt foot.
Is that your hurt foot? Okay. Anyway, language development is a great part of social development. And it's hard to develop socially without language. We did, for a while, my wife and I wanted to deny that something was wrong. But one of the best things we did as parents was to get a diagnosis from experts, people that see autistic children. And it began to affect our family as a whole. We couldn't go out into social situations without Michael screaming and yelling. And when you're in a social situation, your child acts up. The people in the crowd will look at you like there's something wrong with you too because you didn't discipline your child. And it becomes very embarrassing, not just for me, but for my wife and my son. You know, when you're in a group situation, the people expect you to act normally. Now, I had to reach the point to where I realized that Michael wasn't a normal child, and I couldn't treat him like a normal child. I had to treat him appropriate to his verbal age. What do I mean by verbal age? When Michael's nonverbal, that means that I have to reach and contact him through touch. That means I had to talk to him a lot. I had to lower my expectations. I had to reconnect.
Did you just throw me out the window? I just saw you this last time.
I'm not going to throw you out no window, Michael. One of the things we did as parents was originally our other children had moved into their own bedroom about a year and a half. Michael was afraid to sleep. In fact, he had all kind of sleeping disorders. But what we did was we got him sleeping with my wife and I in the same bed. We got him to where he could relax being around us and be comfortable. And he reconnected emotionally. One of the things that happens with normal children is they're held by their mother until they can walk. But they don't ever walk away from their mother until they have their sense of hearing developed. Unfortunately, autistic children have a sense of hearing, but they're not able to process sound waves normally. This makes them verbally delayed. It also means that they can disconnect if they walk off too early from their mother or their parent. You don't want an independent 18-month-old. You don't want them to be independent. You want them to be emotionally bonded to the parent, to the mother and to the father. Isn't that right, Michael? So initially, Michael had less than 20 words of language when he was 3 years old. And what we began to do is we began to engage in research. Now, my basic background is that I was a physician, and unlike most physicians, I love to do research. I had several patents already in different subjects. One of the things I began to do was research auditory processing and language processing and language development. I felt that because there were no solutions being offered for autism, I needed to develop some for my own child and my own family. And so one of the things that we did as a family was since I love to do research, began to study about the development of language and words and word processing. And I reached the conclusion that it's easier to process on one ear than two. And one of the initial experiments we did with Michael was we put a large tube in his left ear. After we put that large tube in his left ear, that decreased his hearing some in his left ear. We also worked on reconnecting with him emotionally. Now, what children are actually doing during the years from the time they're born all the way till the time they're 4 or 5 is learning language. Language is probably the most complicated thing a human can do in their entire life. It's so complicated that no other animal can do language like humans can. And what these children do is they have a difficulty in processing language. And anything that I thought that anything that would make language processing simpler would help Michael gain speech earlier. So what we did was we were able to place a large tube in Michael's left ear, and we.
But you just took out my earplug and put it in that, and didn't get put in.